Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, May 21st. I just got back from boxing. Actually, it was sparring night. Let me tell you something. I cannot overemphasize the benefits of doing something that you don't feel like doing, especially if it's hard. Like every Wednesday and Friday night when we have sparring and I go there, I don't feel like going. I mean, that anxiety starts to build up already an hour before I have to leave in my house. And it stays with me on the drive over to the gym. And when I'm getting ready and when I step into the ring, I'm thinking of every excuse in my mind why I should blow out of there and just, quit. Not quit boxing, but like not do the sparring. But then I just force myself to do it and I come out feeling great. So think about that. Doing stuff that you don't like to do, that's uncomfortable, that's hard. There's big benefits in that. All right, let's talk about what happened in the markets today. First of all, let me just say this right off the bat. It's really, really important in this business to just keep your head on, man. Stay calm and unemotional. I've been in this business a long time, okay? I got started in 1979, so what's that, like freaking 46 years? And I've seen a lot, man. Believe me, I've seen a lot. Like I was down on the exchange floor with the 1987 stock market crash when the market was down 22% in one day. I mean, 22% right now would be like 8,500 points on the Dow. I mean, think about that. The S&P would be down like 1,200 points in a day. So I've seen a lot of stuff, man. I've seen a lot of stuff. Then I think also about like Warren Buffett. The guy's 95 years old. He just kind of got out of day-to-day management of his Berkshire Hathaway. Imagine what he's seen. All right? So, and that's one of the things I love about that guy. Like, you'll never see him, even if he's concerned about certain situations or policies, you'll never see him in an interview kind of, hysterical. Hysteria is like a female trait anyway. You got to stay calm, man. And I mean, like today, okay, the market was down. Let me talk about stocks first off. And then I want to get into bonds. I've been telling you guys that under the debt ceiling, which we are and we have been now for a while, it's very disruptive because we're getting it impedes the ability of Treasury to drain reserves. And I did many, many videos on the problem with these large fluctuations in reserve balances in the system. Mainly, I was talking about big increases in reserve balances that the system, it has to digest that, the bilge pump thing. And the bilge pump is not working effectively because of the debt ceiling. So I think I said last week, Friday or Thursday, that we've had, again, a very big and rapid increase in reserve balances in the system. And I said that's going to lead to some instability in the market. And so, today actually we had even more reserves added because there was a Social Security payment. So the market was down. Now, I know a lot of people won't accept that explanation. They'll say, oh, the bond yields spiked up and blah, blah, blah. So let me talk about bond yield. But I told you that, this reserve situation, until the debt ceiling gets resolved and lifted, we're going to have this problem. I mean, the primary mechanism to manage reserves is not functioning properly. And some of you who are new here, you might be asking, well, why are reserves a problem? Because banks are required to capitalize reserves. The system, the whole financial system is required to capitalize reserves. And so when there's a big addition of reserves, that impacts balance sheets of the financial system. Less other types of assets can be added. Maybe some assets have to be dumped because you maybe come close to being in non-compliance with regulatory constraints and stuff like that. I'm not going to do this whole video on this topic because I've covered it many, many times. All right. But anyway, so that's my explanation. And also I would say that, yeah, I mean, people freaked out and panicked because the 10-year got up to like 459. I mean, I didn't check it tonight. So like, we know that the Fed is holding rates between 4.25% and 4.5%. There have been times over the past, weeks that we've been below 4.25%. And now we're 9 basis points above 4.5%. But this was a total freak out. I mean, I saw it everywhere. It was a total freak out. And this goes back to what I said initially, that you got to try to stay unemotional. I mean, you're talking about we're 9 basis points above the Fed's policy, rate or window, 4.25% to 4.5%. You got 9 basis points. I mean, when it was 4.25%, didn't we go down to something like 374 in March or something like that? That was 50 basis points below the Fed's range for Fed funds. So then it came back. So now we're 9 basis points above the Fed's range. And everybody's like, oh my God, this is a debt crisis. Now, it doesn't help when you get Moody's, downgrading, because most people, I would say everybody, with the exception of people who understand MMT, maybe those of you who watch this channel, they think that the United States borrows dollars, okay? And I think any person who would sit for 5 minutes and examine that, that claim that we borrow dollars when dollars can only come from the United States government. It is the monopoly issuer of the US dollar. You can't borrow something that you can create without limit. All right? It's like, let's say you have, I've used so many examples in the past, that you can't play the Monopoly game until the Monopoly distributes the money, the game distributes the money. You can't drain a swimming pool until you put water in it. Let's say people wanted to buy Ford automobiles. Ford has to put those automobiles has to make those automobiles available. If they don't, it doesn't matter how many people want to buy Ford automobiles. They don't exist. So this hysteria surrounding the U.S. Balance situation, I don't call it a debt situation, I'll call it government balance, is ridiculous, but I'm not going to be the guy to change it, at least in people's minds. In some of you, I have changed your minds. I know you've come into this channel with previous beliefs about this stuff, and you've turned around, you've now caught on to how the system actually operates. But the problem is that this belief system, and I'm going to say it again, that a bad belief system is like a disease in the body, and if you don't eradicate the disease, eventually it's going to kill the body. this bad belief system, this lack of understanding, this flawed and erroneous understanding, that goes all the way up to the highest level of policy. I mean, look at Trump. Trump, threw a wrench into the global trade system, basically on the idea that we need money. He went over to these Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, a state sponsor of terrorism. He went to these countries making deals to get money, which is a keystroke on a spreadsheet at the Treasury. I mean, this is an example, glaring example right now of how a bad belief system is starting to really have some very negative effects. Okay? Now, nothing's going to happen to the bond market, but you could have some very bad policy here. I mean, first of all, we should even talk about the Fed, which is still fighting inflation, despite the fact that all the recent data has shown inflation coming down. Maybe ultimately the Fed will be right, I don't know. But so far, the Fed's been wrong. Powell's been wrong, and that wouldn't be the first time that he was wrong. He was wrong when we were in the pandemic and the supply chain was shut down. And number one, he didn't see that was going to lead to higher prices. But I think the most egregious decision that he made was raising interest rates, which basically all that equates to is raising the general price level, because the cost of credit is reflected in the cost of all goods and services. Why can't people buy houses now? Let's leave aside the fact that the supply is very low. People are citing interest rates. It's making it too expensive. High rates didn't bring down affordability. It made it more expensive. Raising rates raises the general price level across the board. So you have bad policy decisions going on right now. And the more that this bad belief system is embedded into everything, basically, policy, people's outlooks, their views on things, their behavior, I mean, it's just going to screw everything up. And you're going to take a system, which I think is very robust. There's some things I would definitely change, like the regulatory structure right now with the banks and this stupid capitalization of reserves and treasuries, which are risk-free assets, this kind of thing. And they've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. But they need to do something. I would even, if I was in charge, I would end completely the sale of treasuries, bonds and notes, because all that is a reserve drain, and it's like welfare to rich people and financial institutions and money to the Chinese. I mean, the government doesn't need to pay people on its own money that it can create without limit. And especially if the structure of those payments are going to people or entities that don't even need the money. If you need a mechanism to drain reserves, and first of all, if you just change the regulatory structure so that reserves are not needed to be capitalized, then it wouldn't matter how much reserves built up in the system from government spending. I mean, you could eliminate completely the sale of government securities, because it's totally unnecessary, because the government has to spend first. It has to put the money in the system first before it could sell any bonds or notes or bills. Like, you got to put water in the swimming pool first before you could drain it out. That is the sequence. That is how it happens. It cannot happen any other way. You can only buy treasuries and notes and bills with dollars, and the dollars have to be there in order for that transaction to happen. So like a lot of this could be fixed. But again, when you have a bad belief system and people thinking, oh, we got to borrow money, I see it all the time. Everywhere. I see it everywhere in articles, in people on TV. Everywhere you see it. We got to sell treasuries to fund the government. The funding has already been done by the spending. The sale of treasuries is just a reserve drain. But let me get back to the initial thing that I said. You got to calm down, man. I mean, this stuff that we're seeing right now, 9 basis points above the Fed's target range in the bonds. And what are they calling it? Like a debt collapse or a debt panic. I mean, they're just like labeling it like so ridiculous, hyperbolic, hysterical, highly emotional, panicky, doomsday, all the time, doomsday, all the time. Oh, terrible things are going to happen. See, I've talked about motivation. I think motivation is overrated, but there's certain kinds of motivation where you can see how that really impacts human behavior. One is fear. Fear is big, man. I would put it at the top of the list. Then there's greed. We see that when people chase after stocks going up or chase after the market going up. But number one to me is fear. And there are justifications. I mean, like if your life is in danger, if you are threatened and you have, your body automatically goes into that fight or flight response for survival, man. But this is not survival. I mean, people are freaking out because we're 9 basis points over the Fed's target range. And this is now everywhere you're reading. This is a debt collapse, a blah, 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 this or that. I saw one stupid article today about some journalist, right, and I use that term very, very loosely, comparing Japan to Greece. Again, like there's absolutely zero effort to understand these things and conflating Japan, which is a currency issuing nation, to Greece, which is not a currency issuing. I mean, this stuff is all over the place. All over the place. Hysterical, I'm going to call it female type, hysterical, hyperbolic, emotional, panicky. Gotta get control of yourself, man. This is not life or death. Get in a boxing ring. Do something. Like this is, you gotta stop being hysterical. I say you, a lot of you are not like that, but I'm just talking about in general. People have to stop. They're not gonna stop because I'm making a video, obviously. I'm just, I'm sitting here as an observer and I see what's going on. On the one hand, I have knowledge and I understand how things work. On the other hand, I got 2 eyeballs and ears and I could see and hear and listen to what people are saying about this and how they contextualize it and how they frame it. And it is absolute unbridled hysteria. They're losing their freaking minds. It's the end of the world, right? I mean, guys, you got to calm down. You got to calm down. I mean, that is weak. That is weak. A person, a man who cannot control his emotions or her emotions, particularly a man, I would say. And if you're running around there hysterical and crying and screaming and it's the end of the world because it's 9 basis points above the Fed and this is it, and it's, I mean, are there bad policy moves being made right now? Yeah, man, but I'm sure it hasn't been the first time. Okay? You had this clown, Paul Volcker, back in the late 70s and 80s, jacking up rates to 21%. That's what killed our manufacturing base. And he's thinking he's crushing inflation. Prices went up and up and up when he did that. So we've had bad policy decisions in the past. We've had oil embargoes from these our new friends right now. 2 of them, I remember, where there was no gas. You had to wait. You were assigned an odd day or an even day, depending on your license plate, when you could go, and it didn't even guarantee that you would get it. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. So, like, get control of yourselves. That's all I can say. I mean, if you need work on that, then work on it. You know, the way you think is a habit. And you got to try to catch yourself when you're thinking crazy like that and you're losing it and you're getting very emotional. And you got to say, you know, take a breath, take a few breaths. That works. Calm down. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Please like and subscribe. My subscribers went up, shot up. I got 400 more to go. I'll be at 10,000. Thank you very much. If you've done that, keep doing it. Don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. Bye.